All right.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another edition of a Google Plus Hangout for Channels theme. My name is Victor Matthias, and today we're looking at how Nigeria's security situation can be salvaged. Of course, in recent times, we've been hearing cases of the militancy in the Niger Delta just resurfacing, and then also the Boko Haram being in a leadership crisis. Well, Abubakar Shekau has showed up again, but the ISIS already have crowned another leader for the sect. However, that has brought about a little bit of crisis. But the question today is, how can we secure Nigeria's territorial integrity? Well, joining me to get some answers to some of these questions that we will be asking today, first is Godi Wogu. Godi joins us from Prague in the Czech Republic. Good afternoon and welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
We also have Julian Madubuko. Julian joins us from Lagos, Nigeria. Julian, good afternoon, and thanks for coming on the program today.
Good afternoon, Victor.
Thank you very much. Let me just start with you, Julian. Let me even ask, how safe or how secure would you say, or can you say Nigeria is at the moment?
I didn't get the question very well.
Okay, I'm like, how safe can you say Nigeria is at the moment?
Relatively safe. We have hotspots across the country, but the populace feels relatively safe across, in the individual pursuits. I think the Delta region has the militancy and the pipeline vandalism taking place, but that's not necessarily targeted at the Joe public. The herdsmen issue is a major issue, and that has its points of contention, and that's the major issue. Boko Haram is still a major issue. I think the press has not done great investigative work on that area. It's still a major issue where its hotspots are, but at least we feel safer that the threats of terrorist acts against the public are not taking place as frequently as they once were. So I would say we are relatively safe.
All right, relatively safe. That's where you think we are. But Godi, let me just also come to you to find out what you think about our situation at the moment. Do you agree with what Julian said, or you have a different or divergent view from that?
I wouldn't say relatively safe. I wouldn't say that Nigeria is completely safe. I mean, yes, there are pockets of violence and everywhere, but on a large scale, there is insecurity across Nigeria. You cannot just point out a particular place where you say you do not hear of any crime. It may not be the well-known crisis with the militants everywhere, but also on an individual level, streetwise, neighborhood. The security challenge has become so enormous, and our security agencies seems to be overwhelmed, or a lack of has no capacity to actually contain this crisis. A lot of the hot issues, the hot security issues, I would say, um, personally, I believe most of them they do have a lot of a political undertone, and we see and can understand that some of all those crises or those challenges rear its head after change of governments or change of some political settings in particular region. And so uh, this actually um, has given credence to the particular I don't know, struggle or motive for the restiveness in the region where they operate. And those type of crises, I would say, do have more of political solution with a little bit of also security mechanism to be able to contain them if they actually think critically. into them. But then, in general, yes, I wouldn't say Nigeria. Nigeria would not be compared at the moment to really hot countries like Syria or the likes of them. But we do have security issues. Individuals are actually, I'd say, they can attest to that. Anyone who goes out to some place and comes back without being molested or harmed or robbed, do actually pray and do thank God that they have had a great day without any issues or challenges outside.
All right, Agadi, you made mention of our security operatives being overwhelmed with the situation on ground. How do you think we can go past this?
The question is, before you actually do solve or cure an ailment, you have to actually be able to have had a proper diagnosis for it. Our security organizations in Nigeria have been mostly apolitical, and it has been more like this in the last since we became a democratic. We started this democratic test or democratic practice that politicians uh, have actually had a lot of influence over the structure and the operations of the security agencies. And so every security, especially with the police or other ones, do have allegiance to a particular group or particular persons or particular party. So it's not really easy for them to have to have a proper method, a system which they can use to fight corruption. No, sorry, for them to use to fight these security issues without them stepping on the people or some tools. So this is really the bigger challenge I think that our security agencies do have, that they don't have an independent mind and they don't have an independent system. So until that begins to happen, yes, obviously the structure and the constitution does give a particular political office holder the power to appoint some head of security agencies. But then, if you look overall, that most of them actually are attached. If you look at the structure of how they are, from the governors to the ministers and the senators and what have you, they all have aides, police and security aides who actually guide them and who actually kind of buy into their character, buy into their ways of doing things. So they don't have an independent thinking for them to actually know that their foremost job is to secure the lives and properties of the general populace. So their allegiance is to the people who they are mostly protecting. That is why our police system needs to be completely overhauled. I would actually go further to say that I think the idea of having a state police, even though that the politicians are kicking against it because they know that most people, whoever is in power, is going to hijack it, is actually, it's time that Nigeria begins to think towards this, because when you have a state police, when you have a police that is grounded or developed or built from the grassroots, and you know the people, I think that it helps to combat crime. It really helps, because when you have someone who is from one part of the region and coming to police you in the states, sometimes because of the too much of the political issues and the allegiance, they sometimes say, okay, they might feel reluctant to really act or do something. Maybe perhaps thinking, well, it is not my state, let them kill themselves. I'm only here on the tour of duty. After 2, 3 years, I'll seek a transfer. But when the people begins to secure themselves effectively, you find out that they will go as far as rooting out crime and finding a way, a proper mechanism to be able to protect themselves in this.
All right, you're advocating for state police, but I'll come back to you on that. First, Julian, let me also pick some of the things that Gotti said earlier on. He talked about the security agencies being overwhelmed. But let's look at numbers now. Nigeria has a very large population, I think about 170 million Nigerians. But then, in terms of numbers of maybe the security agencies, do you think what we have is enough to secure the whole of Nigeria?
Certainly not. In terms of the personnel numbers that you have in the police force, for example, it's definitely not enough to secure the whole of Nigeria. But but also it has to do with how we record and assess crimes in Nigeria. Um, there are a lot of things that we do in our communities that are criminal but are not considered crimes. So we, from a from the perspective of the Nigerian police force, um, their scope of security assessment is quite small. Um, and it's quite small. It's very reactive. There's not a lot of proactive work going on. So I think it has served us, however it has. There's also a two-tier aspect of security. The rich and powerful have one, and the rest of the country have. So, like, probably the rich and powerful account for about 30% of the entire Nigerian police force, and the other 169,500,000, for example, account for 70%. So it's one of those kind of situations. Um, in terms of, but the thing is, it comes down to money most of the time. Um, whether we have state police or federal or larger federal police, do we have enough money to pay them to be able to service that entity, that organization? And over the years, it's actually proven to be no, to be the case. So when I say Nigeria as relatively safe, I travel across the country, but I live in Lagos. And if you compare the Lagos police presence to the rest of the country, Lagos is far. There's a lot more police presence in Lagos compared to per let me say per square meter. I won't say per capita. I'll say per square meter compared to other parts of the country. But that's because Lagos has a lot more money than the other parts of the country, so they can pay for additional police resources to be delivered to their states. So most of all these things come down to economics at the end of the day. Security and economy goes together. If the economy cannot handle more police force, then no matter whether you call them state police or federal police, the numbers will not change much.
Um,
Okay, you want to say something, Gordy?
yeah, to an extent, I agree to.
Okay, if you just lay back a bit because you're coming into the computer, so you're exactly this is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to an extent, I do agree with what Julian has said, but then I slightly, have a different opinion regards to the economy and the police. Yes, all this boils down to money, and when you think about the fact that we have about, I don't know how many, 300,000 police force. I think it's less than a million police force, policing, securing 170 million people. That is really, really nothing. And then I think that if Nigeria begins to think in terms of security properly, knowing that the world has changed, and that goes to a lot of things that we do in the country, that we haven't really overhauled some of the things, we haven't changed some of the things that we do in the last 40 years, in the last 30 years. It is just, copy from, we find out that we see that how it goes with everything, that, no new ideas. So it becomes almost impossible for people to think of a new way to either change something. So I don't think that it will be completely impossible to find the money to pay the police. I can tell you a little bit how uh, if we, okay, let me go this way. If we reduce the number, and if Nigeria wants to do it, to reduce the number of the policing and the securing the political elites, they will have extra police force that will do a lot of work. Where I am based, it became a debate if the Minister of Finance, because the Minister of Finance over here was trying to introduce new tax measures. It became a debate. And then, a lot of lobbyists and so many people were threatening the life of the Minister of Finance. It became a debate if the Minister of Finance should have a police escort, because he had just one private citizen who actually was serving as his assistant and going with him. So it became because once he was thrown an egg in the public, so it became a debate. Just imagine. Now compare that to Nigeria. How many police people actually do secure one minister, one senator, one House of Reps? Why is it like that? It's because these people, they feel that this nation should serve them more than they should serve the people. Now, going back to the other point, if we want to really increase the number of the police force, I think that Nigeria can find the money if the people who lead can think about how to create and generate the revenue. Most of the states' governors, the only thing that they do is to collect the money for monthly allocation, and they are owing taxes. Actually, it boggles my mind that how a state does not know the number of workforce that they have, and to be able to know all these years that this is how much that they need for salaries. So if Nigeria wants to have police, they can do that. For example, we have millions of Nigerians graduating every year from the university wanting to go for youth service. If I was in government, I would actually scrap that system. Use the corpus, because you have people who are trained or who have graduated in different fields. You have people who have graduated as doctors, as lawyers, as IT specialists in different fields. We can actually think of incorporating these people into the armed forces, the security agencies. If police wants to try to restructure and follow what is happening globally, they will be able to use most of these students who have graduated and serving youth corpus and absorb them and use them to develop so many capacity within the police institution that can help the police do their job. Because the idea of posting people to go and teach in Zamfara in some local school actually has not helped the society. We are facing more security challenges. So if these people can actually, if we can begin to think in this way, to use the skills and help them, we need a strong IT system for the police. Because most of the crime, if I go on the street right now and I see police and they want to do a check, they just stop me, check an ID card, and they swipe it on something, and they're calling on the phone. Somebody is answering the phone somewhere and telling them, checking on their database, has this guy been involved in any crime? Oh, actually, we are looking for him. Over there, boom, you will see police will come. If I was somebody who they were looking for, they have arrested me right there. We don't have even this. We are not able, our police are not able to stand somewhere and call to be able to find what is information about this particular individual they are standing and looking at right now. They do fingerprinting of people. They still are not able to use the fingerprinting to do anything. So I think it is time, so it is time that we begin to think in this way to how to be able to overhaul the system, to be able to use more people to set up a process, internal mechanism that can help police to do their job. And we can actually do this, they can do this rotationally. Every year when the people are graduating, they are using them, setting up projects, using them to do that. You know, some people might, even we're talking about that there is no job. Some of these students, after this 1 year, might want to be part of the institution, of the police institution. Because if they created something, you know, these are the ways which I think that can help in this way. It is not necessarily about having the money in hands to pay them.
All right, very well. You're already talking solutions, but Julian, do you agree with him talking about now the NYSC scheme? You know, moving like what he said now, just incorporating those interested, of course, into the security apparatus, to help out.
It's neither here nor there, because when they don't serve for that long. And also the police recruits a certain number of people every year. The problem, like I said, it comes down to how long are you going to go through a program of training and then employment. At the end of the day, these people need to be employed. The NYSC scheme is quite temporary, so you will not retain a lot of the talents that you utilize, and it will become, once it's very transient, it's not permanent. In terms of actual impact, it won't have much of an impact, because the people left in charge will say, right, these people are only here for 3 months, 6 months, and then we have to phase them out and get another batch. It will just be like every other thing you use the NYSC for. So it's not unless there's a program of a program of recruitment of the appropriate personnel from the appropriate places and putting them on a permanent career path, it won't really serve much of a purpose. It's just having people sitting around with a different uniform on from the NYSC uniform. So I don't really think it's going to make much difference. The nature of security has changed over the years from when we actually had an organized, when as a nation, organized security apparatus needed to be set up for the British. You know, like a lot of things in our country, it's kind of deteriorated. Nepotism kicks in. It needs a professional approach so that incompetency is not what's driving our security agencies. I think at the highest levels, there's incompetency at the security agencies, and like I keep saying, they are very reactive. We have a new IGP, for example, and one of the first things somebody in that position should do is should kind of actually say where on the roadmap of security, of our security strategy for the past, I don't know, 5 or 10 years we are, or what needs to change to kind of take advantage of the current threats and trends in the country. But you never hear those kind of things. Even the security professionals don't know it. Our security forces are capable, but they have to be trained, and that training has to permeate all aspects of those agencies. So we are lacking from that point of view. But like I said, in Nigeria, there's a lot of things that are not considered crimes. So, you know, if people in communities kill one another, and that's not considered a crime because the judge and the jury is in the community. But those are the kind of things that should not happen. We only consider things crimes, or we consider ourselves insecure when we see foreign threats, a different community, a different tribe, a different whatever, and that's what we consider insecure. But that doesn't happen all the time. So from that position, we'll say that we are relatively safe, and that's why I make that statement relatively safe, because communities are judge and jury in Nigeria, and therefore not accountable to the security situation.
All right. So what would you suggest? Sorry, Scotty, I'll come to you. Sorry, Julian, what would you suggest now as a way out of this conundrum?
It has, like it says, I think a visionary Inspector General of Police would help, who then has also the freedom to come up with a new way, new concepts of policing. Obviously, the police needs to be overhauled, but it's not going to happen overnight. So if somebody comes up with a good strategy and a good way to implement what the future security architecture should look like, and the kind of personnel that they need in the force at all levels to be able to deliver that strategy, that would help. But if it's just the same things we're doing year on year, then nothing's going to change. We'll just have police people in uniform. If you're lucky, they will be around when you're facing when criminal activity befalls you. If you're unlucky, then it wouldn't happen, and that's just the lottery that we have right now in Nigeria.
All right, very well. Just before I come to you, Godi, okay, let me just look at some of the comments that you actually put in the chat box. You said in most countries it is mandatory to serve in the military or armed forces for 1 year after this mandatory period. And you went further to say the police can use most of them. That's, I mean, the serving core members, either in compiling databases, using the legal students to help out with legal matters, and using IT students to build IT systems for the police. If we do this, for the next 5 years, we will have a more effective police force. Well, so let me just hear from you, Godi, because you're suggesting all these things. Don't you think we already have this in place? We have a police complaint unit at the moment. Don't you think that's a step in the right direction?
You know, we like to create in Nigeria. We like to create a new office with a new name. If you go in there, you would almost find that the same practice, the same things have been done. Either we are
But,
lazy.
but you can make your complaints either via Twitter or Facebook. They have all these platforms where people actually connect to them.
Yeah, yeah. And the question is, has anyone actually measured the result and effectiveness of these things? The thing is that first of all, it goes with the mind because either that we are lazy to actually do something because we have been so much used to quick results, and quick result is means that what you're doing, if you're not making money right now, if it is not helping you right now, then you don't care about it. Nobody's thinking generally how it's going to help the whole people, the entire population. And this is actually it's part of why a lot of these things don't happen. I've read a lot of reports where you go to a police station to make a complaint and they tell you, well, you're not the first person who came here. We don't have the capacity. We don't have anybody to help us. I see videos where police is watching where humans are being beaten and brutalized. They don't do anything to stop it. So it goes with the training. It goes with the kind of people who are actually doing the job. If you see a policeman here in the street of Europe, you don't even attempt to insult him. You can't. You just can't. You just give him the utmost respect because his appearance, his approach commands that. They don't bully you. It's completely different. So why I mentioned this comment is that if we really have to start to change something, we have to start to do it now. And going back again to the ability to being able to pay people, a lot of the state governors today have almost billions as a security vote. What do they do with this money? If we really are thinking of increasing the population, okay, let's say that we cannot have the capacity to build an IT network, that we don't need too many people on ground to be able to secure the lives and properties, that we're able to do that. Or we are not able to do that at the moment and we want to have more people on ground, sorry. I think that most of this money that the governors are voting to themselves as security votes can actually be used to pay for manpower to be able to do this. If you take that, you can take a number of people in a month. Also, there is something that happens in a lot of countries. In some countries, you don't find the police escorting money from bank to bank. It is our jobs of private security agencies. If the police cannot actually absorb people, if the government is not able to do that, then let them create or have the opportunity that private security companies would be there. So a lot of people can apply and help, and the private security companies would be responsible for all those people. If you want to hire them to protect the states, to protect the people, if you want to have them to be the ones who actually install CCTV cameras and monitor them, and the police can liaise with them and say, oh, we have a crime, then can you release the CCTV footage for us? They can work together. They may not be part of the police force, but they are security agencies that are licensed to do their job, and the police can, either evaluate their activities. So if we really want to do this, if we really want to change it, it is a question of the mindset, realizing that we have an issue. Because we'll keep talking about this in the next 15, 20 years, all these pockets of crimes will continue to be there. The militants, they have realized that we have a chance, because if we go and create a problem, the government will definitely come. And the people who are leading in the states are not able to do anything because they say, well, it is our people, we know them, we just let them be. And because it helps it helps our situation where we work with them, they protect us to be in government. So when we realize that this issue goes beyond ordinary protecting the rich, but it's more about securing the entire state and the entire country, we would really do something about that. I think that most Nigerians like me who live abroad, who live in other places, that are enjoying or understand what being secured means, would love to see a little bit of that back home. And if it's really there, a lot of us will actually be in Nigeria doing so many things.
All right. Just in wrapping up now, do you think the government is doing enough? In few words, please.
No, the government is not doing enough. protecting lives is more than actually appointing and hiring different people. We have to go back to the basics. We have to understand what we have the police. If we are giving this task to the police, we have to find out how is the police recruiting, how are the police training its manpower, what are the type of people, how many of the policemen actually do go undergo kind of psychological training and tests, how are they picked up and stuff like that. We find cases of policemen involved in armed robbery cases and they are confessing. We read these things that are happening. So if you cannot guarantee for the people, if you cannot, the people who are supposed to secure you, if they are not able to do that job, then we have a problem. So the government is not doing enough. The government has to change. If it has to make the police to become autonomous, that the government people in government does not interfere with their job and they have to do it, then let us give them a try for 5 years or 4 years and see what they come up with. Then after that, if they fail, they take it. The government gets steps in and take it from them. But I think that the government needs to do something more than actually appointing and reappointing or transferring or retransferring people to other places.
All right, thank you. Godi Wogu, you join us from Czech and from Prague, that's in the Czech Republic. Julian, let me also come to you and ask if you think the government is doing enough to take us from where we are to where we want to be.
I can't make a comment either way because I don't know where the government wants to take us to. So you can't. The emphasis is not on the government because we don't know what level of security they're expected to provide to the people, what they think they can provide to the people. But like I said to you, for countries with that fit our economic profile and population size, we're no different from them. That's the truth of the matter. We have hotspots of activity on areas where people are not safe. But relatively, I think the level of crime is not that different from anywhere else. We could do a lot better. We could be a lot safer. But with the current way of work, then we will not achieve that. There could be an approach to make us safer, but that's not in place. So where we are, I think as a citizen, most citizens feel relatively safe, I would say.
All right, Julian, thank you very much. Julian Madubuko, you join us from Lagos, Nigeria. Godi Wogu, you join us from Prague, that's in the Czech Republic. And for those of you that were watching via YouTube stream, we do see you all as well. Thank you for joining and being part of the program, but that's where we have to wrap it up today until we come back again next week with another burning issue in the country. I'm Victor Matthias.
Thank you.
Thank you.